Let's get to my next guest, Mike Neville. He's a former Metropolitan Police Detective Chief Inspector and is joining us to talk about where we are with those convictions yesterday, the Manchester airport attack. Mike, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, good morning, Julia.
I have to say, I mean, I've been following the trial. Again, we can't talk about the trials and give opinion on trials whether they're ongoing, and we have to wait until once someone is charged. We have to wait for a verdict. We've got, though, only a partial verdict in this case. We've got a conviction of one of the brothers for the attacks on two WPCs. One had her nose broken, but also on another man in a Starbucks in the airport. But we're awaiting whether we're going to get a retrial for both brothers about alleged assaults on the male police officer, who's, of course, featured very highly in a lot of the videos that we've seen on this. So it does limit what we can say. But in terms of what we can say without being in contempt of any future court proceedings, what did you make of that verdict yesterday?
Well, I was quite amazed, Julia, that it took a jury 10 hours after viewing that footage to make any sort of decision. I mean, the way that the female officer was taken out and the bloodied nose, it just made obvious sense. And the fact that the jury had heard that a man had been assaulted beforehand, and the officers were in full uniform, this idea that they were somehow shocked who it was, or they didn't know what was going to go on.
All of those two women were women.
Yeah, two female officers. I just think it's outrageous, and I think part of it could have been influenced, of course, by senior politicians like Yvette Cooper, who intervened before they knew the full facts. You know, saying, and I suppose the Liberal left, they come from a point of view where if you show the initial footage, that immediately somebody from an ethnic minority must be a victim, and the police must be the villains. And that was a real issue. And we heard about Keir Starmer saying about influencing trials with Axel Rudikabana. Well, Bestie has a word with his Home Secretary, who is supposed to support the police.
Well, again, at the time, I think everyone thought that when we saw that first clip of the police officer kicking and stamping on the head of one of the brothers. There are no charges pending on that, so we can talk about that. I think people thought the charges, if there were going to be any, would be brought against the police officer. There were protests outside a police station. There were big fears of unrest. We had the local MP, Paul Wharf for Rochdale, newly elected, sitting with the family, saying they were deeply traumatised by what had happened, calling for calm. We had the lawyer who then later left the case, saying that these poor brothers had been this terrible victim of this awful crime. There were lots and lots of talk on social media. This is clearly a, white police officer, Muslim, brown-skinned man, must be racist, must be Islamophobic. And then, of course, we had the leaking of the full video and saw the full context. And now we've had the trial. I followed it very closely. We weren't allowed to talk about it on air. And I read the judge's summing up as well. The brothers, I'm going to talk about one, but one brother, the brother who's been convicted of these three assaults, and faces a likely retrial on another assault. Basically claiming sort of this man of good character. And that he'd been provoked into this assault of this man in Starbucks, and the claim there was abuse and shouting. None of the staff who worked there heard that, but they did see the punch and they did see the headbutt. It defies belief to me that someone who's got an unblemished career, unblemished criminal record, never, absolutely lived whiter than white, perfect life, knows how to throw a punch repeatedly like that, has that reaction when police officers stop him, and knows how to headbutt someone.
And it's quite, what it strikes me as incredible, Julie, is that they come from Pakistan. Now, some of the viewers and listeners may remember a show called Karachi Cops.
Can I say though, I thought they were British born.
The British, I'm saying they were flying in from Pakistan, weren't they? Flew in from Pakistan. Their mother was from Pakistan.
I think the brothers were there at the airport to meet the mother who'd flown in, which was...
So the family got some Pakistani origins. You watch a show called Karachi Cops from the 90s, and you see what the Pakistani police do to a suspect who has assaulted police officer. So they come from that background. But also what the public may be shocked to hear is that two of those officers, the male officer, Pc Marsden, and the other female officer, Pc Cook, is that they are still possibly facing gross misconduct hearings, and they may well be sacked. I just think it's incredible. In any other airport, what gets me as well, this is an airport situation. This is where there's heightened security, people are armed. They're lucky they did. Any other airport around the world, if that had been America, they would have been shot.
Absolutely. And it's a point Philip Ingram made too, that it's important to remember they were armed officers. And again, the surprise of this man, Mohammed Fahir Amaaz, that the police turned up, minutes after you've just headbutted and punched a man in front of witnesses in an airport. You don't think there's CCTV and police officers around. It's quite bizarre, isn't it? But this is the thing. The video that we first saw prompted outrage. Of the police officer stamping on the head and kicking the man lying prone on the ground. We didn't know the context. Now, only seeing that bit of video, I was saying to Philip Ingram, I called police officer friends of mine. I spoke to many people who we often have on the show, police officers, to ask, look, what's your perspective on this? You've got experience, and they all, to a man and a woman, said that was unacceptable. Whatever the context, it went too far. The kick or the stamp was whichever the second one was went too far. Once you saw the full video, do you think it was justified, given that there are no police actions, just as an independent Office of Police Conduct investigation? Do you think he went too far?
I do, personally, yes. I don't think kicking somebody in the head, you can kill them. I understand why he used his feet, because he had his hands on his weapon, and he could have kicked him in the body. Kicking somebody in the head. If I was a senior detective investigating that, I think the problem is you're handing victim cards to that person, from
right.
them becoming the
in the heat
villain.
of the moment.
Heat of the moment, and we've all been. I've been there with the red mist. If you're involved in violence like that, where people suddenly attack you, two of the colleagues have been taken out, and you're suddenly on your own. The red mist descends, and you're sort of fighting for your life. So it is very hard to criticise when that has happened. You can say it was wrong, in my view. It was wrong, and some people have tried to justify it to me, and I don't agree with that.
So but as a police officer, being in that similar sort of situation, you still think that he went too far? But I mean, I think a lot of us feel like, well, given what we've seen from the full video, you could say, well, what you did was wrong, but slap on the hand, carry on your way. I'd still rather have that police officer on the streets protecting us. Thank you very much.
I mean, you've got to take into context, like Stephen Watson, the Chief Constable of Manchester, has been highly supportive of his officers. Yeah. And he says that 44 of his officers are assaulted every week. That's the reality of being a police officer, being in the emergency services. You're turning up to places to help people, and then suddenly you're brutally attacked. So, and sometimes police officers get it wrong. Police officers are human. You're standing there with two colleagues, two female colleagues.
I think also I think very critically, two female colleagues. I think that would have had that. I think for a right-thinking man, that would have an extra impact.
I agree, absolutely agree. Sometimes the police officers get it wrong. However, when we look at this, it is 99 times against one wrong thing. The viciousness of the attacks against those police officers. This man deserves to go to jail for several years, and let's see the sentence, because again, all right-minded people were thinking, what did Lucy Connolly get and what will he get? And this will sum up two-tier Britain.
Well, this is the thing, okay, because she's been sent away. We understand she's going to be out within a matter of weeks, but I think we knew some months ago she would be likely to be out in August because, the length of sentence you serve after a 31-month sentence. It looks likely, if we're looking at, the three different charges being brought against Mohammed Fahir Amaaz, for which he's been found guilty, that he will face concurrent sentences. I've never understood that, by the way. I think they should just run consecutively after each other, each one individually. We've had that with the grooming gangs as well. Like, it's all right. You just get 14 years for raping a girl, 1,000 times, and three different girls. But I just don't understand why we do that. They don't do it. They don't do it in America. But they're like, this guy Amaaz is likely to get max of 5 years, and he won't serve 5 years behind bars. Punching two female police officers in the face, punching a complete, stranger in Starbucks in the face and headbutting him, and he'll only probably realistically serve best part of, if we're lucky, 2 years behind bars. I'm sorry, that doesn't fly for me. That's not acceptable.
No, I think the public will feel the same, and they're often duped into the sentences. But as a young PC, I remember I found a man on the street. I searched a man on the street, and he got 9 years for rape and 2 for burglary. Now that 9 plus 2 to me equaled 11. But then of course the 2 years was concurrent, and you get half off. So
Yeah.
9 + 2 = 4.5. That's the corruption of the criminal justice system. It isn't fair. It tells a lie to the public.
Yep.
And we need violent men being put in prison.
Absolutely.